This is the verify testing internal customer call. I also like to call it fireside chats with Kyle for April 2021. A couple of quick announcements. If you are into the agenda, and I'll link it into the video, the roadmap deck changes of note, nothing major this month. Team's continuing to prep for some iterative improvements in the MR widgets. We sorted code quality this month so that those high severity items are up at the top instead of somewhere buried in the list of 100 things on the pipeline page. And then prepping for those larger issues. We should have code quality in the MR diff, at least noting that a file has a new violation in it in 13.12, and then the full annotation in 14.0, which is pretty exciting. And so that's in flight. The other thing that kind of is flying under the radar, if Scott and Miranda get it done, is adding the screenshot for the failed test into the modal on both the test summary and the full report, or maybe it's just the full report for the first iteration. So if you have a failed test, you can go see the screenshot that was captured as part of it. I know Scott was looking for some ways to get screenshots or projects that did that as part of their testing.
Yeah, there's an MR open in review now.
Nice. So that's an exciting MVC that I kind of realized it didn't get included in any sort of highlights during the kickoff because I forgot that we had pulled it in as a stretch item, but I'm excited about it nonetheless. And then
Scott,
oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, did you need help finding, like, we capture artifacts of screenshots in our system, like our spec system jobs, as an example? Do you need help?
It was mostly just I had never set up a project with a screenshot before, so I had to create a unit report with one.
Okay.
In it. But I got to figure it out, so we're good. But thanks.
Sorry to join late. I had to take my daughter for a quick test before she gets something else done.
Don't worry.
Hey, Drew. How you doing, Scott? James?
Good to see you, Zeph.
Kyle. Don't see you enough, actually.
Yeah, I kind of just pulled back on meetings a little bit, I'll say. So we don't cross paths as much anymore.
Cool. And then I'm going to jump ahead in the agenda. There's a new MR that uses the references keyword to override the rules and code quality templates. I am not familiar with this new keyword, so I'm not sure what similar issues customers might have. I'm not quite following the use case. Can you maybe voice over that for us?
Yeah. So in the GitLab project pipeline, we had essentially duplicated the code quality jobs definition from the template in our own CI config because we wanted to modify the rules. And with the references keyword, we found we no longer needed to duplicate that. We could just reference the rules definition from somewhere else, and everything else would still apply from the template, which was pretty cool. So the MR, if you look at the diffs of the MR, or at least like, I don't know if Drew did, and that's why he did one of these. You can kind of see what I'm talking about a little bit clearer. I've seen general feedback from customers through unlabeled issue triage that adjusting parts of the templates is challenging for them, and I think references is actually going to enable more flexibility than what people probably were aware of before this came out.
Yeah,
go ahead, Drew. I was gonna say I can share my screen and talk through it more, James, if that's not a helpful description.
I would love for you to do that. Way back when rules was being designed, we didn't talk about the additive mergeability of YAML that way. I remember we kind of learned that after the fact that, merging key value pairs in YAML is a really useful feature that you don't have available to array structures in YAML. So I don't know how this workaround works, but I'm very glad that it seems to exist, and I'd love for you to tell me how.
Okay, let me share and be a little bit more concrete here. So the diff of the MR that I linked to and kind of tell the story where we had the part of the template commented out. We had some comments here, but the main thing we were really adding to the template was our rules. Here. So the variables in the script were all, as far as I know, 100% equivalent to what is in the template, as well as the reports, everything that's removed here. And really all we needed was those rules, which provide, I guess what they do for our pipeline is say, when do we want to run code quality? Because there's some filtering that we do based on the applicable changes. So as an example, we don't need to run code quality when product docs are the only things that are changed. That's the purpose of these rules, is we try to focus running jobs on MRs that job would apply to. But to work around that for templates, and this is the same with security templates. Remy has a MR that's pretty much the same. We had to duplicate all that content. So with this MR, you removed all that duplicated content. We brought in the include template again, and we just use rules, and then we use the reference keyword, which I don't have open, but I'm happy to find. CI keyword references. It's funny that it's called references and reference. Yeah, so I think right here, which allows you to just kind of take a portion of an already defined config. So here we say reference rules reports quality rules. So just that key for right here, and it overrides the rules that are there with these that are the ones that are the rules that are applicable for our project. Like I said, I know Remy was working on doing the same things with the secure templates. I think there's a little wrinkle as well, but I see this being the same if customers are trying to solve similar challenges of, I only want to run code quality when these files change, as an example, and I use rules for that. They can really take our implementation pattern there, but even other things, I believe, should just apply. So like if variables or needs is modified, you may be able to use that as well from other job definitions.
And can this bang reference keyword refer to, because it looks like you can refer to config from other files. This can refer to any defined block anywhere in like the merged YAML configuration of the whole project?
That is my understanding.
Cool.
I asked Remy to prepare like documentation and then signal boost that a little bit more, because I suspect the power of the bang reference keyword wasn't really understood that much until we came across it. So I'll cross post that documentation once he prepares that next week.
It'd be great, because I think we still have a number of open issues that extend environment variables, or variables rather, so that folks can do various things like that. And if this would be a way to solve those issues, we could do a walkthrough of closing all of the issues, post it into them, and then post a ton filtered of here's how to better use the reference to change all of those variables within the Docker image that while we're using code climate.
I'm gonna link to, I'm just gonna add a link to I'll say the product doc link right here that talks more about references in addition to the MR. I'll say the reference keyword. So yeah, I thought this was really exciting, and yeah, I agree that more exploration, but seeing how that keyword could be used as issues come in that you're looking at might be a workaround, at least, to what the product or what a customer might be looking for from a solution to their challenge.
This might be an interesting hack around the threshold for code quality too. I don't remember if there's a way to say, don't show me things underneath this within I just don't remember how that works. So I don't know if it would work for that, or if we need to actually do something in the code climate YAML for it. But anyway, sorry, a little construction noise happening here today.
That's okay. Yeah, so I'm glad I got to talk through that. As I said, Remy, when he went through this with me, I said, hey, this seems like it might solve customer challenges as well. Let's get at least a write-up or something that we can share with. Code quality came to mind, but secure as well.
So just looking at the documentation, does it appear that you can use reference tags completely in place of YAML anchors then?
Yeah, that is my understanding. It's but instead of YAML anchor, so say you have an anchor that defines like 4 different attributes, you can say just this one specific attribute within that YAML config. So like if you had needs, rules, and all these other things defined in a YAML anchor, you could always extend that anchor if you needed all of them. But if you only wanted the rules, that's where you could use references.
So that's the in that line, that's the rules following the comma in the brackets, right? That rules means fish the rules section out of the referred block and put it under this keyword, which also happens to be rules.
Exactly.
But that last one refers to the target. Okay, cool.
Yes. Yes. Sorry. My apologies. Just the nod.
Awesome.
Thanks, Kyle. That was cool.
Yeah. Kyle, it looks like you have the next item if you want to voice over for us.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll say the last 3 months have been quite challenging outside of work. So I feel that I should know the answer to this question before I ask it, and I want to make sure I vocalize that as well. But is there already a way or an issue for retrieving the slowest tests that are run on a project? Where this came up in the quality staff meeting was if we're trying to optimize our end-to-end pipelines, which run against staging or live environments, we don't really have rich data on what's the slowest test we wanted to just optimize for starting at the slowest. Am I missing something that already exists or something that is maybe identified?
It's just identified in the log from our spec itself. So I don't know that we're rolling it up anywhere.
Right. And I'm sorry that I didn't have something ready. Let me just open a pipeline and kind of just talk through the challenge that I'm saying. And Zeph, maybe here's where you can just say like, here's where it is.
And maybe that's an RSpec setting we don't have set right now to identify the slowest running test, but RSpec will do that for you.
Yeah, okay. So let me share again. We have this project, which runs end-to-end tests against staging. There's tests that are added to the test summary. I can see like these are the jobs. If I click in, and I can see the total time. So I should say, oh, so there they were. It's already there. And I don't know what I was looking at the other day where I missed it. But here, I essentially was in a view where I could only see this. And I guess I need to, because like here, it's right here, what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and those are sorted.
I think
So the
the
slowest
list
is at top.
Yeah, it sorts by failure and then the slowest. Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, so if I wanted to aggregate this information across pipelines for like the last month, it would just be doing the same API call that the test case that like this view is using, extract it, and then
Yeah, but it's a
just
pretty
mash it all together.
tricky API call. Because to get this suite, we pass in the build IDs that were used to run that suite. So you have to basically get the test report summary, which has the build IDs for each suite, and then make another request for the suites that you want. I don't know if there's an easier way to get just the slowest test cases for the past month.
What if you skipped all the high level stuff and just like, can you query all the builds that have happened in the last month?
I think there is an old API endpoint, because when we first initially created this page, it was all just one endpoint, right? I don't know if that endpoint still exists, because we moved it to this new pattern of getting the summary first and then each suite individually.
Right.
Let me check. See if
Is
I
that
can
actually
find it.
grabbing the artifacts though and parsing them like at the time you loaded the page too? Or was that stored somewhere in the old pattern?
I
In
think
the
it was
old
parsing
pattern,
it.
we were parsing artifacts. I think some of the work we did was to at least store it in reactive cache, so it's not going to the artifact every time. But I can't promise you what data is written somewhere besides the artifact and what isn't. Some things are and some aren't, and I'm not gonna guess off the top of my head right now.
Al, tell me a little more about your use case though of what you're trying to accomplish, what kinds of tests you would be looking at first.
So we received the general feedback that end-to-end pipeline duration can block our deployment for too long. So let's say there's a staging incident that blocks deployment beyond staging, and we have to the quality department would have to take an action to remediate that. It's like a 2 to 3 hour wait time after the fix is done for it to get merged because of the pipeline duration. So trying to figure out where do we get the most benefit within that 2 to 3 hours isn't something that I saw we had the ability to get good insight into. But I don't know how I just overlooked the thing I showed everyone as I was talking through it. So it's kind of embarrassing. But yeah, it's
that's
really
how all software development works, man. That like
yeah,
don't feel bad about that.
it's really, if let's say someone has a day and I want to say focus on the most impactful thing, I don't know what the answer to that question is.
Gotcha. So if we were able
But
to
I think
give
I can get it now.
Yeah, so it sounds like the next step then would be after we give you, here are the tests that are most often failing so you can fix them. When we're getting to efficiency, it would be great. Now more pipelines are green or they're failing faster and we have more confidence in them. Now they're just taking too long though when they are green. How do we make them faster? To do that, we might want to say, here are the jobs that are the slowest. And within that, here are the tests that are, or the suites that are the slowest and the tests that are the slowest.
Yeah, actually starting at the job level, which again, I think it's all there, is great. That actually aligned to some of the feedback I had for the new job dependency view, where it shows the needs representation really well. And I think the next, not the very next thing, but in the future, showing how the bottleneck through your pipeline is and where it's taking the longest was where my mind went to immediately.
Yeah, highlight the slowest path, like automatically would be awesome. Like,
Yeah, I'm not sure we'd want to use total time for like a suite though, because one suite might have 50 tests, another one might have one. So we could have one suite that has one test in it that takes a really, really long time, and it might not ever bubble up because the other suites are just bigger.
So yeah, I think once we get to the test level, that would definitely help too. On that, Zeph, I actually, if we get some spare time, like if this ends earlier, I'd like to like hop on a call with you for like 10 minutes if you have that time available. If not, I'll schedule something and chat through like, can those jobs that have 50 tests, what stops us from like splitting them up into like 50 jobs as an example. It's an extreme example. And I know it's something obvious that I'm missing, like, hey, I don't see the durations, but when I click through, here they are.
Cool. I don't see an issue. I was just doing a quick search that gets us that data, but I will get one spun up for us, and we can figure out what the back end of that might look like. So that at least it's stored somewhere and you can get at the data internally, and we can see what is a valuable view for us that'll help inform the front end work when we get to it. I think that would be how I'd iterate through that. But Scott and Drew, how's that sound to you as a super off the cuff high level plan?
Sounds good. I mean, I think this is an interesting topic that I think could benefit from like a think big or something.
Yeah.
Being able to optimize pipelines a lot easier.
Yeah, I can't remember if we had a think big, like a cross stage about pipeline optimization or not, because it does touch on, for runner, like what kind of runner are you using? Is it the right kind of runner, the right kind of compute underneath the hood? And then within pipelines, like showing you where those bottlenecks are. And for tests, which tests are taking the longest or causing your pipelines to fail most often. So it touches all of the groups within Verify. It might be a really good cross stage think big.
Yeah, I know I've seen a bunch of chatter in pipeline authoring that relates to like a lot of cool work they're doing, and Nadia's posting a bunch of like mock-ups of helping people understand what's happening. They might have some really good things kind of cooking already about how to like quickly get those answers. We should definitely find out if they have good ideas, because it sounds like they do.
And James, going back to your question, like that issue and progression sounded fine to me. From an urgency perspective, it seems that the data we need to answer the question that I was asking is available. I just didn't get to it. So trying to see how we can use the data that is there first should probably be the first thing for us. So I wouldn't prioritize that super high at all until we do some due diligence on it, unless you see lots of benefits to based on your customer interviews and stuff like that.
Well, I definitely see a potential for a paid feature here where we start to surface to you, here's the jobs that fail most often or the tests that fail most often, and all of the tests that are the slowest. So here's how you spend less on runner minutes by fixing these things, but it's added premium value.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's the last item in the agenda for us today, but we have more time if there's any other topics folks want to discuss.
Nothing from me, I'll say.
All right, well, we'll give everybody some time back then. I'm sure we all have massive to-do lists and a full agenda the rest of the day. So enjoy the time. Thanks, everybody. This is a great discussion. As always, appreciate it.
Yep. See you. Thank you.
Thanks, James.